This week on Dumb Pitches, my guest is Sean Jordan from the All Fantasy Everything podcast, and he is full of bad ideas. He gives us some script ideas that may or may not have already been classic books, and shares with us maybe the best line you should not say on a date. I'm going to think about it forever. So here we go. It's a great episode, Dumb Pitches.
What a bunch of dumb pitches. Oh my goodness.
Welcome to Dumb Pitches with Monica Nevi. I'm your host, Monica Nevi. Thank you for being here. It's the show where we talk to successful people about their worst ideas. I'm very excited for our guest this week. One of my very favorite people, also a good friend. Make some noise here, everybody in the studio audience, for Sean Jordan. Yay. It's two of us. It's just two of us.
Yeah. Good stuff. I like the noise, man.
Yeah. Welcome. Thank you for doing it. I'm excited to have you.
Please. Thanks for having me. I'm thrilled. This is what it's been so fun about quarantine, is being able to do this stuff, even though we're in different places.
Yes, I agree 100%. So we do like to give our guests some credibility before we get into your bad ideas so that people know that you've had some good ideas. So they don't think this is all you come up with. So this is what we found out about you, I guess, would be the place. If you don't know, Sean is one of the co-hosts of All Fantasy Everything, which is a wonderful podcast. He was also a staff writer for Livewire Radio. He's got an album called The Buck Starts Here. Hilarious. Among other things, you were on the writing staff for a Comedy Central pilot that I actually went and watched that first taping of, which was fun.
Wasn't it so fun?
It was so fun. I was kind of bummed it didn't keep going.
There's so many the opposite of bad ideas, but there's so many good ideas we had for that would be so fun to see in a sports show.
Yeah. So it was, I mean, I don't know how much you're allowed to like say or not say, but it was basically a comedy sports show with like panel and like normal. It was great. I loved it, but that's right up my alley. That's literally my two things. So
yeah, I feel I feel like there's a lot of us where that's our two things. I mean, it would, like, one idea, I don't know how much we could say either, but one idea was we were going to have basketball players shoot free throws and 3 points with medicine balls. And it would have been so fun to watch.
That would have been fun.
And also have these like asshole dudes. Can we swear? We can swear?
Oh, yeah.
I know I won't be crazy, but just like jerk guys who think they could beat a woman at anything. We were going to have like WNBA players play these dudes and just watch them get pie-faced all up and down the court. It'd be the funniest thing in the world.
It would have been great, and that would have been, that's so wonderful, because I know a couple of people, and I won't say names, but that have podcasts with like NFL stars as their co-host or whatever, and and then they'll have like WNBA players or whoever come on, female athletes, great female athletes, and I'm like, oh, I've seen this dude talk shit about female athletes so much. Why does he get to interview? I'd rather you guys get to like do a sketch with them, or I get to interview them,
Yeah, it would just be. They had a show back in the day. I know we're getting off topic, but they had a show, Pros versus Joes, back in the day.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it was like all these dudes who thought like I could do that. No, you can't. Professionals
right.
At anything. If you're professional, you're pretty good at it.
And it's just the amount of time that you spend to be that good. You can't just all of a sudden be like, yeah, I'm going to be good at basketball now. I'm like, I know that you're not.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why open mics, who I think, one of our friends has, but they're like, maybe it's Gabe, but one of our friends says New Year's and there's another day, but like New Year's is the time he loves to go to comedy clubs, because it's when everybody who's like, I can do this, and they go do it because it's their resolution, and you see it in their face 10 seconds in, they're like, oh, this is a lot harder than it looks.
Oh yeah, I actually started around that time, like around the January time. And so I had a really good first open mic, and I think that's why, like, it wasn't, I think it would have been fine, but it was like full, not full all comics, like audiences, because you gotta like bring people the first few times you do it.
Sure.
And I just thought that's how open mics were. Like that, because I lied. I didn't actually bring anybody. I told them I did, but I didn't. And so yeah, there's a lot of that, like, maybe their friends that told them they should do it are the ones that are in the audience, and then they also get to see that they were incorrect in telling them that. It's a great, great. Anyways, let's bring back those. So yes, you were part of that team as well. You've also been named a comic to watch by both Split Sider and Comedy Central, so people know you're good. You got good stuff. Okay.
I like to think I'm funny. I've done skateboarding and comedy and briefly, well, in my younger days, taekwondo. Those are the three things I've been good at my whole life.
Nice. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a pretty good list.
That's it, though. Nothing,
Don't ask me to do anything else.
nothing else. Cooking, nothing. Like seriously, nothing else. It's very funny.
All right. So when I sent you the, examples, I suppose, what did you come up with for your bad ideas?
Well, there were quite a few. I was trying to think of things that to kind of cover the bases. So the first one I had, it's not so much a bad idea, but it's been done. And so I look and I was like, oh, you got to research things. This was like I had a movie idea my whole life, and I thought of it, and it was a movie pretty much about someone who fakes their own death and then goes to their funeral, and it's like what Huck Finn is. I mean, it's like that's like, and I remember I thought for years, well into my adult life, which first of all, that's a book I definitely should have read.
I was going to say, it's not even that it's like a recent movie or so. This is like a classic tale.
Yeah. Definitely something I should have thought of that and been like, oh no, that's Huck Finn. Never even crossed my mind. Because in my mind, I was like, dog, you are a mad genius. You thought of this. So yeah, that was one. I look at myself. When I was younger in this business, I thought I could write a lot more than I could and a lot better than I could. Writing is so hard. Writing a script seems so impossible. And anyway.
And this same reason though is like it's hard now to come up with any like really original idea. Everything is some either amalgamation of other ideas or kind of a redone thing. So I mean, it wouldn't be out of the ordinary to write something very similar to Huck Finn and still have it be made.
Yeah.
But I like the idea that you're like no one else has thought of this.
It was one of those things where you're like, what a bunch of idiots. They're all supposed to be this is the entertainment capital of the world. Morons, I tell you. Here I am sitting in South Dakota with $1 billion idea about somebody who fakes their own death. And there is a big part of me, I think a big part of everybody kind of, who just wants to see who would be at their funeral and how they would act.
Yeah.
But not when you're alive. That's the catch, because I know people have living funerals. I don't want to know how they are when I'm alive.
Wait,
I want them to think I'm dead.
Thing? To have a living funeral, that's a real thing?
Yeah, like if someone's terminal or just something and they want to have say bye to their loved ones while they're alive, that happens.
I didn't know that was a thing. Okay.
I'd have a tough time with it. I'd be crying like a baby the whole time.
Well, I would too, but then I'd probably be like, it was okay. You guys could do better,
I don't want to know, maybe I don't want to know some of this stuff. I don't want to know who had a crush on me in high school. I'd be like, well, gall darn it.
Yeah.
You could have just said something. I would be interested to those when I was dead to see who it really hit. We're going to get morbid real quick, but like who.
Yeah, who really misses you, or on the other hand, who's just like fine, like they're not affected by it at all. Okay.
Or who did that like make it about them thing. I remember in high school a few times there were kids that died, and we'd go to the funeral and there'd be people there, and I'm like, I know you were not friends with him. You were not friends with Luke, but they'd be there crying and really making a scene, and I'm like, are you I don't know, just want like the sympathy? But then there's no good way to like
call somebody out at a funeral.
I mean, if like especially yours, I'm faking my death and I see who's there and I just jump out like, oh, you guys are great, this is fun.
How mad would they be if that?
I wonder. Pretty upset.
It would be like conflicting though, because you'd be like, oh my god, you're not dead, but then you'd be so mad that they did that.
Yeah, it's like Commissioner Gordon's wife in The Dark Knight, when he has to say he's dead to protect her, and then he shows up at the door and she slaps him a bunch and then starts crying, and she's thrilled, but why would you put me through that?
Yeah. Or Castaway. Anyways, he didn't fake his own death, but she thought he was dead.
So here you go. Castaway. If you are Helen Hunt, what's your move when he comes back? What do you do?
That is a tough, because she already has, if you haven't seen the film, she already
You're not
has
a castaway head.
created this
She-
other life. She has a
Mhm.
husband and children. Well, I'm assuming
Yeah.
they're married. Anyway. And then he shows back up. She thought he was dead. So, I mean, I don't know. I think you'd stay. That's a tough thing. Well, here's what I always think about movies. I'm like, okay, we see up until this part, but it's like he's gonna be real weird for a while after that. You know, he's gonna have some things to deal with after living on an island alone for that long. So, is he the same person that she was with before? Does he need some time to figure it out? And maybe she just keeps the life the way she is because for her family's sake, I guess.
Deep.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm shooting for. In my mind, I was like, fuck the new guy. That's
Yeah,
what I always
is that
think.
what-
I'm like, you got to go with your heart. But no, you're absolutely right.
I think that's
Living
what
on an
people-
island for years would turn someone into a weirdo.
Well, he's already sleeping on the floor, which I've heard if you play Survivor, that's a common thing. When they come back, they have trouble sleeping in bed, so they'll sleep on the floor for a while. It's not
You
that
know,
funny, but
I might have like one night of
Yeah.
getting used to it, but I think I'd be like, no, the bed's where it's at.
yeah, you're like, oh, why didn't we have these before? Okay, so you thought you thought of
I
Huck
invented
Finn.
it. There were a couple to go on that same vein. I thought these are good ideas. So I was hoping these would count. I have more, but these two I didn't put in there. But since that seemed to count, these are two ideas I had, and the reason they're bad ideas is because they already existed. But one of them, I was a kid too. I thought I was so smart. I thought of a broom like a broom head on one side and the dustpan on the other, and then a rubber handle, like a 3-foot rubber handle, so you could bend it. And
bring it around to the
yeah, and the rubber was hard enough to where you could use it like a broom if you wanted to stand up, but you could just use it like a little dustpan thing. You could just bend it over. And then I saw on a Gallagher special he had that. I was like, this motherfucker,
He's been watching me.
he's been using my
reading my
idea.
diary. Now he knows.
That, and then I saw this at a restaurant and I thought I invented it too. It was a pie cutter that is you just jam it down in the pie and it cuts it into 8 pieces with
Oh,
one.
like a whole. I've seen those for apples when you like push it down and then it just slices
Yes.
the whole apple. Okay,
Mhm.
and you were like, nope, that was me.
So I guess the overlapping general bad idea would be thinking that I'm smarter than the rest of the world with like pretty simple
I
things
love
like
I
that.
love the lack of research here. You're just like, I thought of it. I'm not even gonna ask if anyone else has thought of this before.
If I was like, if I don't ask, then I thought of it. If I've had that with jokes too, where people,
If I
they're
don't
like, hey,
ask,
someone does that, and I'm like, oh, well, I always equate myself to them. It happened with a few comics that I look up to, and someone would tell me that they have a joke just like that, and obviously I stopped doing it. But my first thought is like, oh, cool. Well, we
We're-
both thought of the
yeah,
same
we're
idea. How
thinking the
fun is that?
same. Yeah, I've had that experience too. But I've had it the opposite, where someone that I don't like has done the same thing, and I'm like, damn it.
Isn't that a bummer?
Okay, but I think we all have something that we're like, I'm pretty sure I thought of that first. You know, I had a friend who thought that she thought of the ugly sweater party before anybody else. Like that was the ugly Christmas sweater party was her idea.
Oh.
Nobody else thought of it. And to the point where she'll like argue with you, like really go for it. But then we also had Shane Torres on this show, and he is convinced that he thought of the camera phone first. It was just his prototype wasn't very good, and that's what the problem was. But
He
everybody's
just
got
put
something.
like a disposable camera on a phone.
That's
and that was
exactly
his
what I said, and he
prototype?
said, "Yeah, that was pretty much it." So
I mean, that's like, well, of course, I've always, you look at stuff and be like, that'd be way doper with a camera, like a camera dresser,
yeah,
you know. But it's like you can't
like,
just say you invented a
this is-
camera phone
this is my camera
because you
hat.
thought it'd be doper with a camera. The camera kitty. My kitty's asleep next to me. It'd be a lot tighter if she had a camera on her.
That would be cool.
So yeah, that's for like a pitching thing. That
Yeah.
was honestly forever. I was like, this will be the thing I do. This will be, and I pictured it like an old school type comedy, like the movie Old School, not Old School like back in the day,
Mm.
where I was like,
Oh, I see.
it'll be star studded. We'll get a couple heavy hitters. of the day, your Vince Vaughn's, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll just be like a goofy, dark, very funny movie, but it'll have some serious notes because you'll have to deal with death and da da da. So we need some people that can act the part. I was
You really
and
put
then
a
I
lot of thought into that part of it, not necessarily thinking that.
stopped right at thought. Never pen to paper. I'll tell you that. So you realize real quick how lazy you are when you're like, well, I don't need to write it until I need to write it. And then you're
Right.
like, nope, it's not how it goes.
I
You gotta
got
have it written.
Yeah, you gotta have it done. You gotta rewrite it quite a few times, and then
This is giving me this is bringing me back. So another bad idea is it? Can I just keep? Is it okay?
Oh
Can
yeah,
I
yeah.
just say
Keep
them?
going. No, this works great.
So another bad idea, how do I phrase it, is thinking you can go into a meeting, and sorry if this gets too businessy. So for like comedy and acting and all that stuff, when you go to Los Angeles, you have to do general meetings and things. I'm no one's kicking my door down, and they never will be. Thank God I found a podcast that I get to be a part of that's successful, and I'm perfectly content, and I love it. But before I knew what my lane was, I did general meetings and things in Los Angeles, and the first one I did was with MTV. So I guess the bad idea would be having nothing prepared to tell them.
Oh,
I
you
didn't
just
know.
were like, yeah, I'll take a meeting, and
Yeah,
yeah,
because they
it's
say it like that. They
right.
say,
Just come have a meeting. With
come
me.
in for a general, and nobody told me that you should have something to tell them. I didn't know what it was. I was like, man, MTV. I thought MTV was courting me. I thought they were just gonna throw some shit at me, and then you get there and they're like, so what are your ideas? What do you want to do? And I was just stunned. And I honestly, I was like, oh, I just want to do stand up. And I just saw their face
Said that to them.
close, and they gave me their 5-minute spiel, and they were like, cool, thanks for coming in. And I knew, I was like, oh, you idiot.
I
But
love
I didn't
that
have
you'd
any
be
ideas.
like, oh yeah, just tell jokes. That's it.
Seriously.
Because most
And they're
people,
like,
I don't know if people, because yeah, there's two ways to deal with that situation. Either you are just honest like you and go, no, I just do stand up, or somebody would try to make something up, which could be even worse. I mean, I don't know. You'd be like, oh, well, I had this idea for this thing, and they're like, oh, do you have whatever, a one sheet or whatever for it? And you're like, no, I just made that up.
yeah, that was it. And then you would think I learned. A year probably later, I went in for a general with Comedy Central, which should have been easy, because I knew the people I was meeting with, the person who brought me in for the meeting. I even knew a couple random people in the office, like bumped into them, that were just friends, and so I looked cool even. Where they were like, "Oh, you're in the mix."
Right.
And then I sat down, and they're like, "What do you?" The only thing I learned is to say what I want. They're like, what do you want to do? And instead of me saying I just want to do stand up, which is at Comedy Central, by the way, the place where that might
They
work,
could do that, yeah.
I was like, why? I see myself in like hosting a show role, and I thought that was going to be cool. And they go, oh yeah, great, you'd be a great host. What's your show idea? And I was like, I don't have one. So I just, a year later,
just
I
like,
took
any
a
show you
small
guys
baby
have,
step.
I'll host it.
I was
Yeah.
like, well, what do I have? Well, this face, huh? What do we do? Can't you see me hosting at like 10:30? Huh? Something like that.
10:30, you're like, I got a face and a time. That's it.
And not even a pretend. I'm just like, I smile. That's what I mean by my face. I'm like, I smile, and I can seem likable. And they're just like, you and everybody else in this, as far as you could fly a plane, everybody else is in the same boat.
Everyone in this office that doesn't even do comedy wants to do that. Like,
yeah, those are all those things that no one tells you about Los Angeles or whatever, and they probably don't tell you because most people they're not really gunning for you or rooting for you because they
right,
they want the job
to know those secrets themselves. Yeah, for sure, I get it.
Just all those meetings where I had no idea, and I didn't even try to think of one. Not even scrambling in the parking lot. I was just like, this will be great. Comedy Central is about to change my life.
I feel like with all of these we've gone through so far, it seems like maybe a lack of research seems to be the downfall.
Yeah, you'll find it's a big through line. So the general bad idea would be to not research, I guess.
Yeah, not ask questions. I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So those are, gosh, it's so embarrassing to think about that MTV one specifically, because what I did in my whole Los Angeles thing, I said I will not move there until I have a reason to, because I'd you hear so many people moving and they didn't really have to. They could have stayed in their town, their Portland, their Minneapolis, whatever.
Right.
And we were at a comedy festival, and I got a few emails from just networks and things, and one of them was MTV, and they were like, "We'd love to, you'd love you to come in for a meeting," and I was like, "I'm moving," and so that prompted me to move.
And then
And
that's how that meeting went.
that's how that meeting went. Ian had a room for me and everything. It was set up for me to move, but
Right.
I drove into LA and I didn't even think about. Oh, so stupid! I drove in where I hit like Burbank at 3:00. I had to be in Santa Monica. So if just everybody listening, that's the worst traffic in the world probably.
Yeah.
And so I got to the meeting. I changed in my car. I was sweating. I parked in a almost no parking zone. It was like a half-hour zone. And then I went in, had this terrible meeting. I almost got hit by a bus on the way out. And then I had to go stay at my friend David's house because I couldn't stay in my room that I had because someone else was still living there. Because I just like up and moved. The whole thing was a bad pitch on life to me. I pitched myself a bad life idea.
Well, sometimes you got to just see how it goes, I guess.
Yeah.
Usually you learn for the next time, but maybe that takes
I like to
baby
think
steps.
I've learned now, but we'll see. The next dipshit that brings me in for a meeting, they're getting a big old bowl full of nothing.
You're
No
gonna be
ideas.
like, I want to host a show that is funny. There we go.
Yeah, I'll step it up one day. I want to host a show where I don't necessarily have to read cue cards, as I am not a strong reader verbally.
And they're like,
I'll let them know a few
what's
things.
the show about? You're like, I don't care.
I want to host a show, and I suck at reading. So what do you think about that? Huh? Who
But
wants me?
Got this smile, so.
I want to host a show where the host has to do a kickflip before every commercial break. I think I got him.
I got
I
that.
think I got my
some
hooks in.
sort of skating show.
So the another bad. I hope I'm doing it right, but like this is more on the dating tip.
It's a vague whatever. We like
Just
different types of stories too, so this is good.
The like on for dating. So I remember this happened one time. It was being too honest too quick.
Okay.
Bad pitch. I was on a date one time and I felt a little comfortable, and she said she liked my shoes, and I was like, oh cool, you know what I hate? And this kind of goes back to the research, because I could have just researched with my eyes and I didn't, but I was like, you know what I hate? And I went like this. I made a little point with my hand, and I was gonna say those pointy shoes that are so popular, and she was wearing them. Do you know those pointy shoes I'm talking about?
Yeah.
They're like pointy heels.
Uh-huh.
And I said that, and the reason I don't like them is because they look so uncomfortable. But I just don't think somebody should have to put themselves through that. But anyway, I looked down and she had them on, and it ruined the date. So yeah.
I just like that you responded to a compliment with, do you know what I hate?
Yeah, I know.
It wasn't even like, oh, your shoes are nice too.
Thought I was gonna be all funny, and no, I just ended up talking shit about what she was wearing.
Oh, you like my shoes? Well, I hate yours. Like that is basically what happened.
I've never thought about it like that. I've told that story a few times, and that's never been pointed out to me. that is basically what I said.
Yeah, that was my first thought was, well, do you know what I hate? That's just an odd thing to respond to a compliment with. But yeah, she was wearing them at the time. And so that was the end of that relationship, or did it continue after that?
It did not continue. And then I think about that too. I guess if we're on a bad pitch for a date, would be don't say things you hate. Try to keep that.
Keep it positive.
It is true. I never thought it is true. Like, just don't say things that you like. Keep it positive. And we went to Superbad. That was when the date was, but that was our first date, was Superbad, the movie. Don't go to Superbad on your first date.
No, anything like it. Comedy's even hard. I feel like a lot of first dates come to stand up, and you're like, what if this person is like, you don't know what their sense of humor is like, and then it's super dirty or something. I don't know, or boring. I don't know.
There you go.
It could go very well, but it could also.
That's a horrible pitch idea. Pitching a stand-up show for a first date.
Yeah.
That's good that you bring it up. I mean, I know you have too. It's just seen so many of those shows, and you can tell. You know, if you look, if they're in the lights, like the first couple rows, and you see the body language, I always feel so bad And I'm not a big mess with the crowd person,
Yeah.
and I'm not thrilled when people do. But if they are a mess with the crowd person, they're gonna look at the awkward couple who looks like they're on a first date.
Oh, for sure.
As a comic, it's like, it's guaranteed laughter for like 10 minutes, and unfortunately, you're gonna make fun of them. But yeah, it never goes the right way.
No, never. Well, and then how often is that true where you can see them? Like they're sitting, not only did they come to a show, but like they're pretty close to the front. So like we can see you. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
always, I mean, yeah, I guess it's not always the girl, but it's one of them you can tell is more uncomfortable. Like it clearly wasn't their idea. The other person's like, this is great. And they're just like, not having it. And then they both get awkward. I've seen that not only on dates, but like, people will go to shows with their parents or something and maybe not know what they're getting into. And then you have to try not to laugh at like dick jokes next to your mom or whatever, which my mom, she loves it, but still not everybody's mom is cool.
Well, yeah, your mom's fantastic. Up there with like my top 5 moms. She's so dang. Momica. I just reminded me, I went to Gone Girl with my mom and my stepdad, and my stepdad never comes to movies. Anyways, there's a scene where Ben Affleck's going down on Rosamund Pike, and I'm just like fucking
right
in between my mom and my stepdad, and like you can't help the thoughts that go in your head. All of it, I was in the middle, and you're just like, cheese and rice. This is what a bummer that I'm thinking about. I never would have thought about this. It's the last thing I would have thought about if we were hanging out all night. But here Bilo is going down on a girl, and so what am I gonna? It was rough.
Just like the idea that because this wasn't that long ago, because Gone Girl's not that old, so you were an adult at the time sitting in between your mom and your
Definitely. Because he gets so mad because she talks. So she talks through movies, and if I tell her not to, she looks at me like like I said I wasn't her son or something.
Right. They do get
crazy.
offended when you tell them.
I'm just like, can you please just be quiet through the movie? And so anyway, I sit between him because he can't hear very well. So if she starts talking,
then
he goes like, huh? And then it's a whole scene. It's a whole nother thing. I gotta move rows. I'm like, I don't know them either. They're crazy. Aren't they fucking up the movie for everybody?
Yeah,
I know.
Rude. I don't know them either. I just sat here and they sat on either side of me.
Here's a rough pitch that I always thought would be a good idea. Windshield that's also a movie screen that can play a movie while you're driving. I always thought, I'm still not sold that it's a horrible idea, but I understand you can't do it.
It's one of like kind of transparent still, and you can see what's going. I know what you're saying. It reminds me of like, I don't know, Star Wars or Star Trek or whatever, when things like pop up, so it's like a hologram kind of. Okay, but then so you're supposed to be watching it, but also watching the road at the same time.
Here's the drive. I don't know if you've ever had to do this drive. You could interchangeable states, but we'll say North Dakota, South Dakota, Iowa, Nebraska. Okay. They all have South Dakota, it's I-90. Iowa, Nebraska, I think Iowa's 90 and 80, and Nebraska is I-80 straight through. You can't get a more boring straight line. There's not a more boring straight line in any sort of straight line and boring combination. Driving, you could take a pencil and draw down a 30-foot piece of paper. That's a pretty boring straight line. The drive across Nebraska is a more boring straight line than that. So if you were like in the middle of the day, most times I'd be like, if there was a movie also playing on this windshield, I'd be driving better. I'd be more alert. So
paying attention. Okay.
If there was like some sort of monitor that you could it could monitor your heart rate or something, or like where your eyelids are in relation to where they should be to be open to be driving alertly.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, now with these, if there's self-driving cars or at least self-correcting cars,
Yeah.
That could be more possible. I'd just be afraid to fall asleep or something. I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's a wretched, horrible idea. It can't ever work. But a part of me, I have so much confidence in myself. I'm like, I could do it. I could do it just fine.
Yeah. But, you can figure out how to just do it just to your car.
You know what kills me? I'd go on a tangent here. You said though that cars drive themselves. When you ever been on a plane and you hear some like dipshit say the plane lands itself? You ever hear that?
Yes, all the time. Or when they'll be like, "Oh yeah, planes pretty much just fly themselves. That's why." That's why the pilots can go to the bathroom and stuff. And I'm like, what?
No, it's so. I mean, I know nothing about it, but I do know that my fiance's dad is a pilot, and I've definitely brought it up to him. I was like, "Do planes fly themselves?" He goes, "They do not.
They do not.
They have
There's
navigation.
More than
and
one person in there doing that.
Yeah, they have instruments, but I'm like, if I just want to see the person who says that, I want to see the pilots like skydive. That'd be such a fun prank show if you showed like two people dressed as pilots skydive off the plane.
Jump out.
And then have that person be like, well, what's going to happen? You're like, oh, it lands itself.
It pretty much just lands itself.
I wouldn't worry about it. Yeah. That is I don't know if I'm ever going to be ready for that. Like a Lyft or an Uber without a driver.
Yeah, I mean, it's
really
some,
scary.
Yeah, just a friend of mine bought a house in Phoenix somewhere, and they had him there. And I saw a video of it, and I was like, this is so weird. Like, I don't know how to feel about it.
I don't know. Would you do it?
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I have pretty bad anxiety in the car when other people are driving. So I'm like, if no one was driving, would that be better or worse for me? I don't know.
Yeah, seriously.
Because you can't be like, hey, pay attention.
Wonder if they pump in like horrible conversation on your way to the airport that you don't want.
They're like, so what do you do for work? You're like, oh God, what is happening?
There's so many times where it's like, boy, I couldn't have my headphones in any harder.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm just like making sure they can see them in the mirror. Like I'll tilt my ear so you can definitely see there's a headphone in it. And just.
I have before my phone was dead or whatever I had been using to listen to music on. So I just left the headphones in, but nothing was playing just so that people wouldn't talk to me.
Sure. I've done that a ton. I do that on the flight. I'll do that. Sometimes I'll do it. And I don't know why I ever thought this was like a great idea. This might even work. But sometimes I would do it walking. If I was walking in a rough part of any town I was in, I'd have my headphones in, but no music on. And Laura pointed out to me, she's like, why don't you just take your headphones out? I was like, I don't know. I don't know. Because in my mind, I was like, people are.
You're like, they'll think that they can rob me, but really I'm listening. And it's like, what if they just didn't think they could rob you? That would be.
Exactly. So with my headphones in, I didn't know that I was thinking this, but I must have subconsciously been like, they think they can rob me and then they're going to try and then I'm going to fuck them up. And that wasn't what was going to happen. They were going to rob me. That's always going to be the case. If somebody wants to rob me, they will rob me.
They can do it. That's fine.
Yeah. I'm not a big, you can't have my wallet guy. You can have it for sure.
Just be like, you know what I hate? Your shoes. Here you go.
Yeah. Why don't you get those? You shouldn't have to put yourself through that. Those shoes suck. Put on some comfortable sneakers, and then let's go to this crazy offensive movie for our first and only date.
Let's really wrap it up, and then let's go. I want you to be comfortable while you're super uncomfortable.
Yeah, while you walk away from me thinking, what a dork. Never again will I go on a date with that guy.
Oh, it's such a great just combination of bad ideas. I feel that's what we like on this show. Some there's just so many ways to have a bad idea, I guess, is the the real moral of the story.
I couldn't have more. It's funny, I can't believe no one's ever pointed that out to me, that somebody said I like, and I was like, cool, I hate. And I fancy myself as somebody who I'd like to think I've always been essentially the same kind of guy. Like I've had rough patches like everybody has, but I've never been an asshole for real. And that's like a total asshole thing to do.
But you didn't think about it. It wasn't intentional. You know, I feel like an actual asshole knows that it's.
I guess an asshole would have looked at the shoes and been like, you know what I hate, and knew
your shoes specifically. Your shoes.
Here's how it went though. It's funny. I was just like, she goes, I like your shoes, and I was like, oh, thanks. And I said some. I was like, thank you so much. I love like a nice pair of white shoes. I don't know. They just really top off like a look. You know what I hate? And then I just went into it. I didn't even look to her shoes to be like, I like your shoes.
Really? I hadn't made it about, you're right. You like my shoes. I really like my shoes, but I hate your shoes.
You should like my shoes. They're dope. What an asshole. No wonder she never wanted to see me again.
That's so funny.
Now she just starts talking again. I'm like, oh, be quiet. Superbad's on.
Well, things seem to have worked out okay for I'm assuming both of you. She can wear whatever shoes she wants now.
Yeah.
I mean, and I know you're doing some live stuff still a little bit, but where, if people want to follow you, find you, to watch your shows or check out All Fantasy Everything, where can we find you?
Yeah, no, All Fantasy Everything. It's a podcast I host with David Bory and Ian Carmel. It's Ian Carmel's idea. I need to be extremely clear on that. We're lucky to be on board. Listen to it. It's very fun. We fantasy draft everything except sports, but still kind of sports, but not, we just do fantasy drafts of everyday life stuff and pop culture. And Twitter, Sean S. Jordan, Instagram, Sean Cougar Mellon Jordan. But, more importantly, what I would say is find a theater or something that you like and buy a t-shirt from them. Just any theater in your town, or like a coffee shop, or somewhere, an arcade, somewhere that you want to be around after all this, and buy a t-shirt or like a coffee mug, or get some food to go, that stuff. Do as much of that as you can, because we're on our way out of this. And those are the venues we perform
I was
at.
going to say, that's where we'll be performing. Yeah.
Yeah, those are like, when we go on tour again, it'll be places like that we want to go. So just take your, take your 10, $15 if you got it, and do that. And if you don't, tweet about them, or, tell people. There's it doesn't, if you have 3 Twitter followers, doesn't matter. Just be like, hey, this is a dope coffee shop or whatever. Go check them out. Everything's going to help. And, then we're all going to be able to go back to those places.
I love that. It's a great point also, that, I mean, eventually, hopefully our schedules will look similar to what they used to, but we need the venues to still be there to be able to
Seriously,
to do that. And everything he named, we will perform at coffee shop, arcade. I've done all of it. So
yeah, those are the fun spots. Like
it is
an
fun.
arcade, like a beer, like one of those cheap movie theaters. Those are the fun ones.
Yeah, definitely. That's good. And those are the places where if you do buy a shirt or a gift card or whatever, it actually really helps them. So
sure.
There
And
you
it's
go.
cool. You get to, you're wearing a cool
Yeah.
shirt.
wearing a cool shirt. Be cool,
Yeah.
everybody.
Don't get
Well,
those pointy shoes,
Don't
idiot.
get
Get a
those
cool shirt.
Get a cool shirt. You know what I hate?
What a dickhead.
Oh, that's so funny. Okay, well, thank you so much for being on the show. These were great, great variety of stories. I loved it, and I'm gonna think about that date forever. Also, if you haven't already, subscribe to the YouTube channel here, my YouTube channel. We're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and you do different things there. You follow, or you can subscribe and rate and review. Whatever you do on the thing, do it on there. We're on the Helium Podcast Network, so check out other shows or just keep supporting us. I appreciate you. We've also launched YouTube memberships, and so it's a monthly thing, kind of like a Patreon, except it's on YouTube, and you get extra bonus videos that includes my bad ideas from this show, but also there's full-length stand-up sets on there and other videos that only people who are members can see. So check all that stuff out, and thank you very much for watching. But, right now, why don't you just keep watching Dumb Pitches?
You're weird.
Yes.